Hi, I'm Daniel Wong, and today we're going to be playing one of the more popular builds of turns, blue-white taking turns. So one of the biggest draws to white is the great sideboard options that you get, but I'm getting ahead of myself. This main board comes to us from Thomas Davies, who took it to a Star City Games Invitational Qualifier and top-aided, so congrats Thomas. This is very much a taking turns deck. We've got our core of Howling Mine, Dictate of Kruphix, and Jace to draw extra cards, 10 extra turn effects in 4 Temporal Mastery, 2 Part the Waterveil, and 4 Time Warp. In this particular build, we do expect to kill with Part the Waterveil. We're going to make one of our lands a 6/6 and attack with it a few times until the opponent dies. We have 7 pseudo-extra turn effects, split between 4 Gigadrowse and 3 Exhaustion, 5 cantrips in Serum Visions and Opt. Then our interaction is 3 Path to Exile. It's a little bit tilting, I have 3 different arts, but that's just what I have. 2 Snapcaster Mage, 2 Cryptic Command, and a Commandeer. Over in the mana base, we have 6 fetch lands. This is the only part of the deck that I've changed. Because all of our fetchable lands are islands, it doesn't matter what fetch lands you're running as long as they're blue, so I made them split as evenly as possible to minimize the amount of damage that a Pithing Needle or a Sorcerer's Spyglass can do. Then our fetchable blue-white lands are 1 Prairie Stream and 2 Hallowed Fountain. We also have 2 Glacial Fortress and a Temple to round out the 12 white sources. We have 9 basic lands, 2 of which are snow-covered. The number you have snow-covered really doesn't matter. We have an Inkmoth Nexus, which I'm not a huge fan of, and Mikokoro, which is our great Howling Mine land. So the reason I don't like Inkmoth Nexus is there are very few games that you win because of Inkmoth Nexus that you would have otherwise lost. The biggest draw to Inkmoth is that you can put your Part the Waterveil counters onto it, animate it, and attack with a 7/7 Infect Flyer, which is really cool. But the thing is, that's just not that different from attacking with a 6/6. You're still pretty much going to kill the opponent in 2 or 3 turns, and when you're at the point in the game where you can awaken Part the Waterveil anyway, that difference is very minimal. The other draw to Inkmoth is that it lets you win through infinite life combos. But first of all, infinite life combos are pretty rare in Modern nowadays, and second, now that Jace is unbanned, you have another way to beat an infinite life combo, just ultimate Jace. Yes, it is pretty hard to ultimate Jace, but when you're taking a bunch of extra turns, it is very doable. So over in the sideboard, I've changed it from what Thomas had played just to match the meta a little bit more. So we have 2 Rest in Peace, which is great against graveyard decks, 2 Stony Silence. Yes, KCI did just get banned, but there are still artifact decks such as Hardened Scales Affinity or Traditional Affinity. 2 Timely Reinforcements, great against aggro. 3 Terminus, which is great against creature decks. 3 Chalice of the Void. This could be a little bit controversial because of the massive amount of 1-drops that we have in our deck, and we do expect to put Chalice on 1 most of the time, for example, against the Phoenix deck. But what I found is you can often sideboard out a couple of cantrips when you're boarding in the Chalice to minimize the amount of damage it does to you, and the amount of damage it does to your opponent is massive. For example, the Phoenix deck is almost entirely cantrips. If you put a Chalice on 1, they can resolve very, very, very few of their spells. And finally, to round out the sideboard, we have 3 Thing in the Ice as, again, a way to kill whenever we can't stick a Dictate. It also blocks, it also bounces creatures, great against aggro, great against control. Just overall great card. Yeah, so that's the deck. I'll see you in round 1. Alright, here we are for round 1. We've lost the die roll. This hand looks pretty good though. We've got a bunch of lands, a Dictate, a Jace. Would be nice if we had won the die roll because we don't have too much interaction, but it's still a keeper. Let's see what the opponent's up to. Mountain Go. That's not great for us. Let's get our scry on. I don't know exactly what our opponent's up to. Would be nice to Gigadrowse something and then play the Dictate on 3 and play Jace on 4. Yeah, I'm just going to keep it on top with the plan of Gigadrowsing aggressively. Not exactly sure what the opponent's up to, though. Mountain Pass is kind of unusual. Interesting. This is Ramanop Ruins. Cathartic Reunion, discarding Empty the Warrens and Mountain. Now I really don't know what the opponent is up to. Some kind of crazy deck. Well, I am a little bit scared, but we're going to, at the opponent's upkeep, just Gigadrowse their 2 lands to minimize whatever they can do. I mean, I guess our opponent is on some kind of crazy mono-red Empty the Warrens Storm deck, so I suppose having them not kill us is a good thing. Steamkin Spirit Guide, Steamkin. So I am kind of scared of the Steamkin. Unfortunately, our only way to interact with it is Jace. My worry with Steamkin is that the opponent is going to get a bunch of mana. I honestly don't know what kinds of cards are in the opponent's deck that would net the mana. I assume like Manamorphose or something, and then I don't know what they can do with like rituals or Empty the Warrens. So I think my plan is going to be exhaustioning this turn so that the opponent just can't meaningfully get counters, and then the following turn play Jace and bounce it. Or we could be like really lucky and just draw a path to Exile, but let's not bank on that one. So our opponent has been playing a bunch of lands, which is annoying. Jace and then bouncing the Steamkin kind of only saves us 2 mana, which kind of sucks. I also don't know if the opponent has any bolts to kill Jace or whatever. Our alternative is casting a Serum Visions, seeing what we can find. I really don't know what the opponent's capable of, so I'm just going to Jace bounce and we'll see where it goes. This decision I think would be a lot easier if I knew it was in the opponent's deck. The other thing to note is that Rumnop Ruins can no longer hit Planeswalkers because of the... I don't remember exactly when the rules change was. Guess it was Dominaria or whatever. Alright, there's the Steamkin. Please don't do anything good. Ooh. I think this is going to end poorly for us. I think this is going to end very poorly for us. The opponent only has 3 cards in hand after that, so not sure exactly what's happening here. 5 mana. Maybe this is just an Empty the Warrens. No? What's going on with 6 mana? Just a big Empty the Warrens? Let's see. Oh, Past in Flames for... Oh, and there's a Grape Shot in the yard? Wow, and there's a Pyromancer Ascension? And the opponent still has mana from the Steamkin? Huh. This is a crazy deck. Alright, while the opponent's doing that, let's think about what we want to sideboard. So, Rest in Peace for sure. Stony Silence looks real bad. Terminus is okay against Empty the Warrens and kind of okay against Steamkin, but it's not great. I don't think we want to bring in more than like 1 tops. I don't want to bring in Timely. Thing in the Ice I think is pretty good because it lets us kill quickly, and also it destroys the Empty the Warrens tokens. Chalice is a little bit weird, but if you look at what the opponent's played, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, well, not 2, bunch over here, a lot of 2s. I think we're going to bring in Chalice with the goal of putting it on 2. Yeah, so I guess that's a sideboard of Rest in Peace, not Stony Silence, maybe a Terminus, all of our things, all of our Chalices. I'm not sure exactly what's going to come out. Okay, back to the game. What's going on? I wasn't paying attention. Jace died. We're taking a lot. And we're probably facing down an army of Empty the Warrens tokens. Let's see, Storm count is a lot, so we're super dead next turn. Yeah, this would have been good earlier. I guess if we had cast Serum Visions last turn, we would have been able to path it, but yeah, I don't think that's what we should have gone for. Okay. All right. So we said we're bringing in Chalices and Thing, Rest in Peace, and maybe 1 Terminus. let's figure out what comes out. Because we have things, I'm okay with cutting one part, one Howling Mine. I'm a little bit afraid of giving our opponent too many cards, so cutting one Dictate I think is okay. Let's see, 3, 6. We need to cut 6 more cards. So Path is still good. We definitely want to hit Steamkin. Gigadrowse, I'm not so sure. The part that's a little weird here is normally when I bring in Chalice, I like to bring out cantrips because normally I want to put Chalice on 1. Here we want to put Chalice on 2. We only really have Thing in the Ice and Snapcaster Mages as our 2s. So I think that's, oh, I guess Rest in Peace. So I guess that's sufficiently few that it's fine. I suppose we could trim a Snapcaster Mage because we're bringing in Rest in Peace. I think we want Jace because in the event that we put a Chalice on 2, our only win cons are now Part the Waterveil and Jace. 4. I wish I knew better how to sideboard with this deck. I feel like we're not bringing this Terminus in when we're just going to rely on flipping Thing in the Ice to deal with the Empty the Warrens tokens. Let's see, we need to make 4 more cuts still. This is tough. I think I'm just going to trim from various parts of the deck. I think we can trim 1 Temporal, 1 Gigadrowse, maybe one Exhaustion and 1 land. Yeah, I don't like Inkmoth. Yeah, our curve is kind of low. Kind of low. It's not that low. I think this is fine. Yes, we will play first. So this is kind of sketchy in that we have only 1 land. However, we have some very good sideboard cards, and we also have Commandeer. So we saw both Tormenting Voice and Cathartic Reunion out of our opponent, and we're perfectly okay with pitching Temporal Mastery and Gigadrowse to take a Cathartic Reunion. This is definitely a sketchy keep, but I'm going to keep it. We do get a Scry to try to hit a land off of the top 2 cards of our deck. Yeah, I'm certainly not happy with this hand, like super happy with the hand, but I think it's a controversial keep. We'll put it at that. That is not a land. All right, let's get that land. Nope. All right, so hopefully our opponent will cast a Cathartic Reunion. That would be probably the best thing for us to snag with this Commandeer. But I think I'm also okay with, oh no. That's kind of a disaster. Let's draw a land. Nope. All right, I think because we're behind on lands, we're going to pitch this Gigadrowse. It just won't do much when we don't have mana. So this is definitely an unfortunate situation. But like I said, if our opponent just casts a Cathartic Reunion or something like that that we can snag with this Commandeer, then we're still going to be in pretty good shape. Oh my god. I don't think we want to take this Manamorphose. It's very weird that the opponent cast Manamorphose after damage. But yeah, I think we want to draw more cards than just 1, and I think our opponent might be casting that Cathartic now. Come on, you can do it. You can do it, opponent. There we go. Okay, so I think we want to get rid of Temporal, and unfortunately, I think we need to pitch the Exhaustion because I think we're going to need to use this Cryptic Command to bounce the runaway Steamkin at some point. It's pretty unfortunate, but I think it's what we have to do. The other great thing is with this Rest in Peace that Past in Flames is going to do nothing. So that's cool. All right, there's our lands. Uh-oh, what's this? Another Steamkin. Oh boy. I think we want to just cast Rest in Peace this turn, because our opponent does have access to quite a bit of mana, and then can cast Past in Flames, can cast Manamorphose to draw a card, and then can cast Cathartic Reunion. So let's do that. We're certainly behind right now, but this is by no means a lost game. Next turn we can cast Thing in the Ice. The following turn we can put a Chalice on 2. Assuming we draw a land, of course. And again, assuming we draw a land, we can then Cryptic, bounce a big Steamkin. Yeah, I'm not going to say it's looking good, but it's definitely looking winnable. We do need to draw a land very soon, though. The other thing is if we can start chaining these Time Warps together with a thing on board, then we're going to be in very good shape. I do think the next thing we want to do, though, is... I feel like this is a free attack. I'm going to block here. I don't think the opponent has anything meaningful. They didn't show us any bolts or anything. It's certainly dangerous to do this, but also I would like to save life, and the difference between 5 damage and... Uh-oh. A Parade. Bummer. I suppose I could have waited. That's not a land. It's not a land either. This is. Reforge the Soul. Oh my god. Well, that sucks. That sucks. I think I found our lands. Yeah, this is just real unfortunate. It was certainly a risky keep, and it certainly did not pan out. I think I knew the risks when I was going into it. I think I would keep that hand again given the opportunity, but it was risky. Wonder if we're literally dead this turn or only figuratively dead this turn. So the interesting thing about these Cathartic Reunions and Tormenting Voices is that the opponent is kind of spinning their wheels a little bit. They are getting 2 more counters towards mana, but because these cards are going into exile because of this Rest in Peace, the opponent is not actively achieving anything besides Storm Count. So maybe the opponent's just going to make a bunch of Goblin tokens. Maybe they're going to Grape Shot us and kill us. But right now, the only thing these cards are really doing is developing Storm Count for free. I guess the opponent is seeing a lot of their deck, so it is pretty likely they're going to have a Storm card to finish us off. We'll see. And the reason that I'm not F6 here is if the opponent attacks with a Steamkin that's a 2/2 or smaller, I am just going to Snapcaster block it, since Snapcaster is not doing anything with this Rest in Peace. I also want to pretend that we have a counterspell, even though I'm sure our opponent has figured it out by now that we don't. So Pyromancer Ascension literally doesn't do anything, but I guess it develops Storm Count. All right. Let's see. I didn't bring in any Terminus, so there is no way for us to deal with these goblins. We're done here. All right, I'll see you for the next match. Okay, here we are for match 2. We've lost the die roll. This hand looks pretty terrible. It would be okay against something like Jund or Black-Green, but let's not bank on our opponent being a really specific deck. Also, they've also mulliganed, so it makes mulliganing a lot less bad. Oh. 1 land, 2 dictates, and a serum. Well, this isn't a great hand, but I think it's going to be better than 5. Also, the opponent went to 5, so that's something to be aware of. We are on the draw. We get, let's see, we get our scry, we get our draw, we get Serum Visions looking at 3 more cards. We basically need to find 2 lands in the top 5. This is fine. Unfortunately, that's not going to work. Unfortunately, that's also not a land. All right. Do we want both of these or just one? So we certainly want at least one. Put that on top. We do kind of want to work towards this time warp, so I'm assuming we're going to want both. That could be a mistake. We potentially may have wanted to top one, bottom the other to try to just draw more lands naturally with Dictate. In the event that we end up getting super flooded like we did after that Reforged the Soul from the last game, but we'll see. Although if the opponent's just on something like blue-white control, then having more lands would be good. It's very unclear to me what the opponent is exactly, but my guess is blue-white control. I'm going to put an upkeep stop here because my plan is to cast a Dictate at the opponent's end step. Actually, let's see what they fetch. If they're blue-white control, I'm going to cast Dictate during the... What are they? Don't know what they are. I'm going to cast Dictate during our opponent's draw step, and the reason is to play around Cryptic Command. This way, they won't draw a card off Dictate, but they also can't Cryptic Command to counter this and bounce a land, which would be kind of a disaster for us. All right, neat. And I think I will not play the upkeep Dictate of Kruphix. Yeah, I think I would rather just hold up mana, see if we draw like a Cryptic Command or something. Nope, not quite. So we could Gigadrowse the opponent, but I think I would rather just cast more Dictates. I'm still very unsure what the opponent's doing, but it looks like they had missed their last land drop. Wonder why they're cracking that Scalding Tarn now. Oh, interesting. I thought Splinter Twin was banned. So we could Gigadrowse our opponent's lands, but I think what I would rather do is play a Dictate at our opponent's end step. Maybe draw step again to play around Cryptic since they didn't play a land. Yeah, I'm going to play a Dictate at our opponent's draw step. And then I guess I should have done it in response to that Dictate trigger, so our opponent had one less opportunity to draw a counterspell, but whatever. Then next turn, I'm going to tap the opponent's lands. That way the opponent won't have mana to cast Kiki and kill us. And then we'll try to go off from there when the opponent has a bunch of tapped lands. We'll also have 2 Dictate of Kruphix online, which means we'll be drawing a lot of extra cards from this time warp. That Exhaustion is going to be helpful. That Path might also be helpful. So even if the opponent plays another Pestermite or Deceiver Exarch here, we're still going to have 4 lands available to tap down the opponent's stuff at their upkeep. Yeah, we're just gonna go for all their permanents. So this will play around counterspells pretty well, in that there's just not much that the opponent can have that's good here. Even if the opponent had something like Cryptic Command to bounce one of our lands, we would be able to just play it and Time Warp. I hate this part of trying to figure out what lands you've tapped with your copies of Gigadrowse. All right, that should be everything. Cool. Yeah, so even in the worst case scenario where the opponent does something like Cryptic Command, bounce a Dictate, or Cryptic Command, bounce a land, we're still in fine shape. We'll be able to Time Warp on our turn, we'll be able to Exhaustion the opponent so they won't untap all their stuff. Even if they do eventually cast a Kiki, we can Path to Exile either Deceiver Exarch or Kiki. Forgot the timing of exactly when you're supposed to do that. It's been a while since I've played Splinter Twin. So let's think. They play Kiki, then they get a chance to activate Kiki, targeting Deceiver Exarch. Then Deceiver Exarch comes in. Deceiver Exarch targets Kiki to untap it. So if you want to hit Deceiver Exarch, I guess you path it in response to Kiki. That way the opponent has their Kiki tapped. All right, like I said, even if the opponent does this, which was basically the worst case scenario, we're still in good shape. Might as well F6. So we're still drawing 2 cards a turn. We still get to Warp and then worst case Exhaustion. Hopefully we'll draw a land sometime in all that, so that we'll get to Exhaustion and also Dictate. All right, it's a land. So we could path this now, but I don't think that really accomplishes much. So hopefully we'll just continue drawing lands and keep doing stuff. All right, nice. So now we get to 7 mana Temporal. If we get 1 more land, we get to cast both Time Warp and Dictate, which is great. We're also insulated from counterspells. What is this? Oh, Stubborn Denial. Like I said, we're insulated from counterspells. This one. Let's see. I think we want to get rid of 1 Dictate and probably Exhaustion. Let's see. The reason being next turn we want to try to draw a land so that we can Time Warp and Dictate. And then the following turn we would get to Snapcaster Time Warp. There's definitely an argument for getting rid of something else here, but I think it's these two. So we're going to Commandeer, targeting Stubborn Denial, and then have Stubborn Denial target Commandeer. Stubborn Denial is going to try to resolve, it has no target, and then we will resolve our Temporal Mastery. Man, I really had no idea that was a card I was supposed to be playing around. I was thinking of Spell Pierce, which our opponent would have cast last turn. I thought our opponent just had straight up no interaction, but luckily we've got that 0 mana interaction going for us, so that's cool. Well, that's not quite it. I suppose last turn I could have Snapcaster Time Warped, which actually would have been better because we would have gotten an extra hit in, but let's just do that now. Time Warp. I just don't know where my lands are. We still get to Time Warp and Howling Mine, so that's good. And it would definitely be a lot better if we could awaken this part of the Waterveil, but unfortunately we only have 7 lands right now, so even drawing 1 more land won't cut it. But anyway, this is an example of a situation where the Inkmoth Nexus just isn't doing anything meaningful. All right, 1 sec. Let's see here. So I think we are going to part the Waterveil without Awaken, just because we want to continue this chain. And let's see, part with Awaken leaves us 2 mana. So I think we will fetch tapped Hallowed Fountain and then play Serum, whatever. I'll cast this first, just to make sure I have enough mana to do all the things I want. All right, and then the reason I fetched first is because we want to keep this scry. right, these are great. I lost my train of thought. Oh, right. Once we get our next part, the Waterveil, which is gonna be somewhere in our deck. Let's see, we don't really need either of these. Once we get our next part, the Waterveil, we'll be able to kill the opponent in 2 hits, regardless of, you know, whether or not we animate the Inkmoth. So this Inkmoth isn't really doing anything besides making us Gigadrowse for 1 less. All right, cool. So we still have Snapcaster Time Warp. This might be one of the rare instances where we get to kill with our 2 Snapcaster Mages. All right, or our opponent's just done. So Splinter Twin. I did not come prepared for this one. So we don't have any additional counter spells. We were really playing more for what's on board. Timely isn't going to do anything. Terminus, we would need to miracle it off of our singular opt. Rest in Peace doesn't do anything. Stony Silence doesn't do anything. Chalice, I think, is too weak. Thing in the Ice, if we could flip it, would be good. I think our opponent is also bringing in a lot of counter spells, so I do think we want some number of Thing in the Ice in order to get through that. Let's see, so we definitely want Path. What is not good here? I suspect that our opponent might have Vendilion Click, and Vendilion Click makes Temporal Mastery a lot worse. What happens is you reveal it for the miracle trigger, and then your opponent, in response to the miracle trigger, will cast Vendilion Click, target you, take the Temporal Mastery out of your hand, and then you can't cast it. So I'm gonna take one out. I'm very unsure about the sideboarding, but I guess let's see how it goes. All right, this hand isn't great against most opponents, but I think against this opponent, I'm going to keep. And the reason is I don't think our opponent's going to kill us quickly. I think it's going to be a while. You know, they need their Deceiver Exarch or Pestermite, and then their Kiki. It is possible they just go aggro and, you know, cast a turn 2 Snapcaster, cast a turn 2 Vendilion Click, or sorry, turn 3 Vendilion Click, whatever. This hand would be pretty bad against that, but I think it's still a keeper. We do want to hit lands. And Mikokoro is kind of nice as a way to get a kind of Howling Mine effect online. Relic. Luckily, that only hits Snapcaster Mage, so not that big of a deal. I wonder if the opponent has Blood Moon, and if the opponent would... Interesting. Thing in the Ice. And if the opponent would play Blood Moon against us. If they do, that's definitely a reason to play the Misty and fetch a basic so that we can still cast Cryptic Command after it. Of course, we could draw Jace, and that's a reason to hold Misty. I think I'm just going to play the Misty just in case. I think the marginal upside of keeping it in our hand is very small. Also, this particular build has 5 more fetch lands left, so I don't think we're in any kind of rush. Let's see. Both of these cards are going to be good. I don't think the opponent is an aggro flip thing deck, and even if they are, we can Gigadrowse to save a little bit of life, so I'm going to go Path to Exile, second from the top, Dictate on top. So the plan is going to be to path that thing at some point, preferably when the opponent is tapped out. But that point is not necessarily now. We also could just take a hit from the thing and then path it. It's not like a huge deal or anything. All right, so if the opponent continues to leave up counterspells, I think I'm going to just wait. The reason being we're going to hit our next few land drops, and if we can find an opportune time to cast this Dictate or I'm going to set an end step stop just in case our opponent does something. If we can find an opportune time to cast this Dictate or to cast the Path to Exile that we're going to draw in just a little bit, I think that would be pretty nice. Also, if thing isn't flipping, it's totally fine by me. So I'm not going to cast this Dictate because I highly suspect our opponent has some kind of counterspell shenanigans going on. I'm going to play the Mikokoro even though we have this Gigadrowse in hand because... Actually, I guess because we have 7 in hand, activating it isn't a good idea. I was thinking of activating it, but... Snapcaster Opt. I think this might be our window to cast Path and then possibly cast Dictate. Because we are going to need to deal with this thing in the ice. I'm going to cast Path first because I feel that that's the more important spell to resolve at this particular moment. And then sure, the opponent could have a Stubborn Denial like they did in the first game to deal with this Dictate, but if they do, so be it. It does kind of suck that we're giving the opponent a land, but what can you do? All right, nice. So at some point, we're going to want to Gigadrowse the opponent's blue sources and then start going off. Not quite sure what that point is going to be just yet, but we'll know it when we know it. The opponent does have quite a few blue sources. What's this? What? That's really cool. Well, we're going to try to go off, but the opponent's going to draw a buttload of cards while we're doing that, because every time we cast an instant or sorcery, they're going to draw a card and they're going to ping us. I've never played against that one before. Let's see how it goes. Or I guess I should say, I've never played against this in Modern before. Oh boy. This one will be interesting. So I suppose if we draw something like... what am I trying to say? If we draw something like Exhaustion in our next 2 draws, we could Exhaustion the opponent and then Cryptic Command, bounce Niv Mizzet. That sounds pretty good. It's really up to what we draw, I suppose. Those were not especially good draws. Oh my god. Let's see, what do? We can just play a land, tap Niv Mizzet and a bunch of blue sources. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then try to continue to go off from there. Oh my god. We can Cryptic Command to bounce Niv Mizzet and then tap 3 blue sources. The opponent will not be able to recast Niv Mizzet. We could... Let's see. Well, land is definitely going to happen. We could bounce Niv Mizzet with Cryptic. We would have 3 mana left over, and then cast a Serum Visions, and then tap 2 lands. The opponent will have 4 up to 5 and will not be able to cast Niv Mizzet. I think I like that the most because we'd really like to set up some good draws for next turn, so we really want to cast this Serum Visions. Return target permanent and draw a card. That permanent. This is so absurd. Our opponent has so many more cards than we do right now. I guess it's not that many more, but still. Okay. That's unfortunate. This exhaustion would have been really nice if we could have cast it. Oh my goodness. These aren't exactly what the doctor ordered. Okay, so if we Gigadrowse them, they're going to have 5 lands left over, which means we can tap the 5 lands and then exhaustion them. Yeah, we just need more gas. This is not quite what we're looking for right now. Okay, so we're going to upkeep, tap 2 of their lands. So I guess the other good news is that we have this Commandeer in our hand, which means if the opponent decides to do something like Cryptic to bounce our Dictate, or I don't even know what else the opponent could do, we do have ways to interact, so that's cool. It also means I can't F6 right now, which maybe telegraphs it a little bit, but whatever. Okay, let's get rid of Gigadrowse so that the opponent can't surgical the 2 out of our hand. Okay, so we might be sticking to the plan of tapping our opponent's stuff and then exhaustioning them. The problem with this is that Scalding Tarn is a fetch land, so it'll be untapped. We know that the opponent has whatchamacallit in their deck. That Force Spike card. But I guess if they have that, we can Commandeer. Let's see. We would need to spend our thing and our Gigadrowse. Oh man, that's really bad. I think it's what we gotta do though. Well, let's see. The alternative is we can just pass the turn and then Gigadrowse 1, 2, 3. Let's see, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Could even play Thing and then just Gigadrowse 6 things. I think I kind of like that better. Yeah, I think I like that better. So we'll just cast Thing. We want to keep as many blue sources open as possible because we're about to Gigadrowse. And then if the opponent doesn't crack the Scalding Tarn, we'll just tap their 6 lands that aren't Scalding Tarn. If they do crack the Scalding Tarn, we'll tap all the blue sources and leave Mountain untapped. All right, that's kind of annoying. We get 1 less tap, but we can still tap all of the meaningful, I guess not all of the meaningful lands, but we can tap a bunch of our opponent's meaningful lands, which we also kind of have to do here so we don't die. Let's see, we can make 4 copies. Okay, let's tap blue sources. Yeah, so we're leaving Mountain, Scalding Tarn as the untapped lands. We are taking some damage from the Pestermite, which kind of sucks, but whatever. Wonder what our opponent's thinking about. Okay, adding mana. This could be bad. We'll see how this goes. This is not quite Cryptic mana. I'm not exactly sure what's going on. Maybe just another Pestermite or something? Or like a Deceiver Exarch? Don't know what this mana is going to go to. All right, to nothing it is. Again, let's get rid of this Gigadrowse so our opponent doesn't... what am I trying to say? Doesn't surgical it and snag this one out of our hand. This time we're pretty close to flipping Thing in the Ice, and I am afraid of a Braid or Lightning Bolt or something. Yeah, I'm just gonna let this go. Okay, I think my plan is to Gigadrowse the opponent's lands now. That's 3 mana. Let's see, we have 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 mana. Yeah, Gigadrowse the opponent's lands now. They're probably going to crack Scalding Tarn, but that's okay. Exhaustion, they'll only have 1 mana, so Spell Pierce doesn't do it. The other one, the Force Spike one, doesn't do it. And then at the opponent's end step, we can Dictate and then try to go off from there. We'll also have Gigadrowse available to flip Thing in the Ice, but that's not a super huge deal. So I want to replicate this twice, spending 3 mana. One extra benefit of making the opponent crack the Scalding Tarn is that we can then Gigadrowse it with this Gigadrowse once it becomes an actual mana-producing land. One thing I didn't think about is this plane is pretty soft to Vendilion Click, so I really hope the opponent doesn't have that card. They would Vendilion Click us, take the Exhaustion out of our hand, and then we would be unable to do anything. The reason I Gigadrowsed first is because I wanted to make the opponent use their mana now so that they couldn't have a real counterspell like Negate. They would be forced to have one of those wimpy counterspells like Spell Pierce or Stubborn Denial. Because we really want this Exhaustion to resolve. So we're going to go to second main phase and then cast it if our opponent lets us. All right, sweet. So we're going to have a tired opponent. And let's remember to play our land. Cool. So now I think at the opponent's end step, we're going to go for this Dictate and then figure it out from there. Let's get a Prairie stream just so we have a couple more white sources in case our opponent taps them. All right, hopefully we just draw like 2 extra turn effects and then we can just kill the opponent. I'm going to put a draw step stop just in case we want to tap this land. I'm not sure exactly why we would want to, but just in case. All right, that is a very good draw. Don't think there's anything the opponent can have here. I suppose there is that one Shadows over Innistrad card that just counters a sorcery, but realistically speaking, I don't think there's anything the opponent could have here. Oh, we're still in draw step. Okay. Yeah, so let's just get another Thing in the Ice down first, just in case. Let's do the Time Warp, just in case. Nice. I'll see you for round 3. Okay, here we are in round 3. We've won the die roll. This hand looks pretty good. We've got a cantrip, we've got a dictate, we've got a time warp. Hopefully the opponent won't run us over too quickly. Let's see. So we could fetch and then Serum Visions. I think that is what I'm going to do. The reason that we're fetching first is to not mess up our scry. It's really unclear if we're going to want these. They are spells though, and we have a lot of lands in our hand, so I think I'm just going to top. There's definitely arguments against that though, but I suppose if we don't want that exhaustion, we can Polluted Delta crack it. If our opponent, I'm not exactly sure what our opponent could show us on turn 1 that says don't draw exhaustion, but let's see. I suppose Ad Nauseam is one of those things. The reason being Ad Nauseam, let's see. Cool, nothing here. The reason being that Ad Nauseam is an instant, so they kind of can kill you whenever. They can just leave their mana untapped until they have 6 mana, and then as soon as you tap out, they can kill you. So Exhaustion really just doesn't do all that much, so I am actually going to decide not to draw it. Probably, anyway. We'll see exactly what happens. Maybe I made the... No, this is definitely Ad Nauseam. Got a good variety of decks today, which is pretty cool. Yeah, let's just get a tapped Hallowed Fountain. Because as soon as we play that island in our hand, the Prairie Stream is going to come in untapped. And Ad Nauseam does not play anything that would punish our non-basic lands. No Blood Moons, no whatever's, Tectonic Edges. So I think the plan here is we're just going to Dictate of Kruphix probably, and then try to go off on turn 5. So Ad Nauseam does take 6 mana in order to just straight up kill us, and they're pretty far away from that at the moment. However, I guess the opponent could do something like play a Pentad Prism this turn. Please don't do that. Alright, so now that they have Pentad Prism, it is entirely possible that they do something like... let's see, this is 5. Yeah, they can just play a land and then start to kill us. Alright, I suppose it was a mistake to get rid of that exhaustion, so let's see if we're lucky enough to just top deck one in the next couple cards. Alright, I think we're just going to have to represent counter magic for the rest of the game. Gigadrowse is not going to do anything because as soon as the opponent untaps and then plays a land, they'll have access to 6 mana and can kill us in response to the Gigadrowse. So what we really want is to draw Commandeer, so that we'd be able to Commandeer an Ad Nauseam, draw a whole bunch of cards, and then kill them. One unfortunate part is we're basically never going to be able to tap out as long as the opponent has mana available, has 6 or more mana available. Strictly speaking, they can't even kill us with only 5 open mana if they have something like a Simian Spirit Guide into Angel's Grace into Ad Nauseam. Yeah, this is the 5. Simian Spirit Guide is 6, so just 1 towards Angel's Grace and then 5 for the Ad Nauseam. So I think we're just going to pretend that we're a nice little blue-white control counterspell deck with Dictate of Kruphix for some reason. So hopefully the opponent just never goes for it and then plays something dumb like a Phyrexian on life. Okay, Pentad Prism doesn't actually count as tapping out because the opponent still has access to 6 mana right now. So we can't tap out safely right now, which is very unfortunate. Also looks like the opponent's thinking about it. Really not sure exactly what they're doing with their time here. So for those of you who don't know how the Ad Nauseam combo works, there's two halves of the combo, the white half and the black half. So the white half is either Angel's Grace or Phyrexian on life. They both have the you can't lose the game clause. Phyrexian on life just says you don't lose the game for having 0 or less life. Angel's Grace straight up says you can't lose the game this turn. And then Ad Nauseam says basically Dark Confidant and repeat. So you reveal the top card of your library, you lose life equal to its converted mana cost, and then you repeat as many times as you want. So what happens there is, because of the white half of the combo, the opponent can't lose the game. Ad Nauseam just allows them to flip over literally their whole library, put it all into their hand. They're at negative whatever who cares life. Then they exile 3 Simian Spirit Guides and can cast Lightning Storm, which is a 3-mana instant where any player can discard lands to put 2 charge counters on it. Then it deals 3 damage plus the number of charge counters on it to any target. So they'll target us with Lightning Storm, discard enough lands so that it deals like 19 damage or whatever. It looks like we're at 18 right now. Because they have their whole deck in their hand, they have a couple Pact of Negations, so we won't be able to... Unfortunately, I don't think we can afford to activate Mikokoro. We'll be at too few mana at that point. We really want to just look like we're representing Cryptic Command or whatever. If we wanted to go for it, we would Time Warp this turn, but I'm a coward. I think the opponent has an Angel's Grace and an Ad Nauseam, so I'm just going to wait for them to do something or wait for us to draw. Rats. So even with this unlife, let's see, they still have 7 mana open. Yeah, this is not good. So the only counter spells we have in the main deck, or I guess in the entire 75, are Cryptic Command. We can Exhaustion the opponent, but it doesn't do anything because they still have access to all of this Pentad Prism mana. So again, we could try to go for it using either Time Warp or Part the Waterveil, but I believe we're going to die if we do. The opponent has seen... The opponent has seen quite a few cards. I'm gonna continue being a coward. I think I will play Mikokoro. This Path to Exile isn't going to do anything, so I'll go ahead and get rid of that one. Discarding to hand size. So I'm not sure at exactly what point we're going to go for it. I think it's going to involve us having at least one of Commandeer or Cryptic Command online. Right now it just looks like we have Cryptic Command online, which is what we're going for. Hopefully the opponent will continue to not do anything. But by not do anything, I do mean go to their turn. Let's take a quick look at the sideboard. So Stony Silence is okay. It hits Pentad Prisms, which in this particular game would be a really big deal. It hits Lotus Bloom, which is also kind of a big deal. But I also don't think I want to go overboard on it. I think 1 is fine. I feel like 2 is too many. Terminus doesn't do that much. Chalice is surprisingly useful. On 0, it stops Lotus Bloom and Pact of Negation. On 1, it stops their cantrips. And on 3, it stops Phyrexian on life and their win cons. Their additional win con is... Alright. We'll let the opponent just do it. I suppose they had 2 Ad Nauseams in hand, so they're going for this now because they had another one. So I guess we can just take a look at the opponent's deck. I'll let you know what's up. So Simian Spirit Guides are for adding mana. They've got Pact of Negation, so even if we did have interaction at this point, it's too late. And then... Come on, opponent. All you need to do is flip over the way you win. Laboratory Maniac is one way, but that's not going to be how they kill us right now, I don't think. Keep going. Still have 10 cards left. Keep going. Opponent, where are you? One other sweet thing, though, is if the opponent doesn't notice this and they flip over literally their whole deck, once they put Lightning Storm on the stack, I'm going to activate Mikokoro. And they're going to draw a card. What? Do they not have Lightning Storm? What happened? I'm very, very confused. Oh, they must have had Lightning Storm in hand. Okay, so this is great. The opponent's just going to discard all of their whatevers. Because the opponent has 0 cards in library. Oh, wait, no, they have Angel's Grace. Okay, and I didn't notice this white mana. Okay, this isn't going to work, but I'm going to try it anyway. If they didn't have any white mana available, we would be able to kill them with Mikokoro, but I forgot that they had Printed Prism. Oh well. Anyway, this is how they win. Just a bunch of charge counters. Yeah, okay, that's fine. Bunch of charge counters. We could try to fight back by discarding 2 islands. They're just going to discard more lands, so we're not going to win. In terms of things to bring in, like I said, Chalice is great. I think I'm going to bring in like 1 thing in the ice as an alternate win con. I think we're going to bring in like 1 Stony Silence. Sometimes they board into creatures, things like Dromoka, Dragonlord Dromoka, or stuff like Grave Titan. I'm not going to do anything about that though. I don't really think that's a concern. So I don't like Gigadrowse because again they can win at instant speed, so they can win in response to the Gigadrowse. I'm going to leave 1 in for just in case. I don't especially like Exhaustion. Again, they have artifact mana that isn't affected by it, and most of the time they're not tapping out. Although, definitely made a mistake putting or shuffling Exhaustion in that game. I think we could have won otherwise. Last card to take out. Oh, Path. Obviously, Path is not good. All right, let's get that Exhaustion back in there. We don't want this Path. We'd keep 1 in as a hedge for like Dragonlord Dromoka or the other thing. It's definitely not good though. I kind of want to take it out, but there's not that much good stuff to bring in anyway. Like Thing is okay. Stony Silence is maybe better than Path. I'm just gonna run it like this again. Path just as a super hedge against like a Dragonlord Dromoka or whatever, but it could be a mistake. Okay, yes, we will go first. This hand has no lands in it. This hand has not enough lands in it. All right. And that's a land. So I am not going to fetch on turn 1 because we do want to draw that land. So I'll just go ahead and play an island, and we don't need that mana. Go ahead, friend. So next turn, we're going to fetch Shock on the Misty, just cast Stony Silence. And then after that, we're going to probably just fetch an island off of the Polluted Delta and then cast Dictate. When I have these huge time disparities with my opponent, I always wonder what they're doing, you know? Like, is this person a parent? Are they trying to take care of their kid while they're playing Moto? Are they just really hungry and they're cooking at the same time? Are they just chatting with their buddy? Are they trying to play 2 games of Magic Online at once? It's always really unclear to me. Could really be anything. Yeah, like there's no reason for someone who's paying attention to take that much time at our upkeep. I mean, maybe they just have a laggy internet connection. I don't know. Could be anything. Trying to think of what counter spells we play around by casting this now. I think it's almost nothing. I don't think Ad Nauseam typically plays negate or any non-pact negation, whatever that swan card is, swan song. Yeah, anything that really makes a difference, where if we would cast it on our turn versus on their turn. Right? Nice Pentad Prism. They might have something for the Stony Silence at some point. Would be bad for us. I know there is a card, Patrician Scorn. I don't remember how much mana it is normally, but it says something like, if you've cast a white spell, if you've cast a white spell this turn, you can. Does this do anything? Let's see. The opponent doesn't have access to Pentad Prism mana right now, so they can't kill Stony Silence, so they'll only have 3 mana on their turn. I don't think Exhaustion does anything right now. I'm just going to go ahead and pass. But yeah, Patrician Scorn. So it says something like, if you've cast a white spell this turn, you can cast Patrician Scorn without paying its mana cost, destroy all enchantments. So that would be really, really bad for us. All right, now I think this Exhaustion does something. The thing that it does is prevents our opponent from untapping, playing a land, and casting Ad Nauseam. And then it will... Okay, we really want to hit a land with this opt. That's a land. I wonder if our opponent made a mistake here. They don't have access to this mana right now, so they'll need to Angel's Grace next turn. Let's see, Angel's Grace. Oh, they could still kill us. So Angel's Grace, land, Simian Spirit Guide. Yeah, I mean, there's nothing we can do about that. But yeah. Oh, or Angel's Grace, Patrician Scorn. That would be kind of cool. Or just Simian Spirit Guide and Ad Nauseam actually kills us here, so that's pretty bad too. What our opponent gets to do is, yeah, just cast Ad Nauseam in response to the trigger. We have actual nothing to do with that. They're just going to kill us. Yeah, well, we won't make our opponent play this out. All right, see you for round 4. All right, here we are for round 4. We've lost the die roll, and this hand has way too many lands in it. This is just the same hand with 1 less land. Oh my god. All right, we'll keep this. This has not been the greatest league, so... So we could keep this island on top to get Mikokoro online, but then I guess that's the only thing we're doing. I mean... We're so far behind that I think we need to... Yeah, I'm just going to top this. We're so far behind being on the draw and down 2 cards already. I think we just need to make sure that we're hitting our land drops, and then our opponent's on a slow deck or something, and then we can maybe win if our opponent's on blue-white control. All right, I hope this is blue-white control. This very well could be blue-white control. So we're... All right, nice. So we're definitely going to try to unmulligan by drawing some more cards. We would really, really like to... Of course. We would really, really like to draw a land. Of course. Like I said, we would really, really like to draw a land, so much so that I'm going to activate this now. There we go. We did it. All according to plan. Alright, so the opponent does have 9 cards in hand, which means unless they're... Oh, Field of Ruin. That's no fun. We would really like to draw a land. The way we lose this match is by not drawing enough lands. Yeah, I'm just going to do this now. Again. Bummer. Oops. Yeah. Well, this is not looking good. Okay. One great thing we have access to now is the good old Snapcaster Path to Exile combination to try to catch up on lands again. Yeah, our opponent just has so many more lands than we do, though, that even Gigadrowse leaves our opponent with a counterspell. I am going to try Snap Pathing. Actually, yeah, let's try Snap Pathing. Let's see if our opponent lets us. So the really unfortunate part, or ironic part, whatever adjective you want to say about this game, is our first hand would have been great here. The main thing you want to do against a blue-white control opponent is just have a bunch of lands. Yes, I would like to use this ability. So just having a hand with 6 lands in it is actually very good. Let's see, the opponent has... Dang it. Opponent has 5 cards in graveyard, so this isn't flipping yet. So what I really want to do is I want to resolve a Jace. Unfortunately, I don't think that's going to be possible. Even if we Gigadrowse 6 lands, it's possible. So we can Gigadrowse 6 lands and then cast this Jace. I think I made a mistake discarding that Temporal Mastery. I didn't think we would ever be able to resolve a Jace. Yeah, we really just want to resolve a Jace, and then the opponent is in such a bad spot that they're going to have to be proactive about the Jace, but we can do things like Path to Exile their Colonnade if that's what they try to do. We can tap it multiple times with this Gigadrowse. I think this is our way to crawl back into this. And we even get a hit of planes, I suppose. Yeah. Yeah, it was a huge mistake discarding this Temporal Mastery, but too late now. Probably could have just discarded the extra Jace. I was thinking that the first one might get countered and we might need the second one, but whatever. There's also blue-white control, so I'm going to try to play a little bit faster just so that we don't run out the clock. We're at 21 now, but the opponent's up a minute on us. Yeah, that's fine, opponent. You do that. Oh, shoot. The opponent still has counter magic up now? I thought they had drawn a card with that. Dang it. Yeah, I don't think this Jace is resolving. I feel a negate in our future. I mean, we could cast the Jace, have them negate it, and then 2 turns later we'll try for another Gigadrowse into stuff. That might be our best bet. Alternatively, if we want to keep Jaces in hand, we could do the Time Warp again, see if they buy that bait. I think we have 2 Jaces. I think we're fine throwing one into a counterspell. That kind of sucks. Oops, too many. I really thought we were going to resolve one there. The other thing that sucks about this is our opponent is way ahead on lands now. Search for Ascant is going to flip. Then they've got 1 + 3 is 4, 5, 6, 7. They're going to have 7 blue sources to our 6 lands to... Oh, what the heck? I'm so confused. I didn't expect that to resolve at all. Okay, let's... I think I'm going to 0, hold priority, and cast Opt so that we can look a little bit deeper. Yeah, I was not expecting that to resolve at all. What's our opponent thinking about? What is our opponent thinking about? I'm really not sure. We really just want lands. I mean, Serum Visions is fine, but... sure, I'll top it. It lets us get rid of some of our Jace Brainstorm cards if they're bad. Like, these are not great. Yeah, we really would have liked a fetch land or something. I don't think it really matters entirely. Play a Prairie Stream. Leave up Path in case they go for the Colonnade into Jace. We'll at least have something to ram into their Colonnade. Apologies for the car alarm outside. I hope it's not quite loud enough for you to hear that. All right, opponent has a Jace. I'm okay with that. I was really hoping the opponent would go after our Jace with the Colonnade. So I think I'm just going to Jace 0, and then we can get rid of 1 card if we Serum Visions, and then draw one of the cards we put back, and then scry one of them to the bottom. So let's do that. I'm very confused why our opponents are so slow about things like this that really shouldn't matter. I don't think this is like a connection issue on my end. I'm pretty sure I have an internet connection right now. So I don't think we're going to want this Jace. So I think I can go Time Warp. No. the order. Jace and then Time Warp. And I can cast a Serum Visions. Put Jace on the bottom. Suppose we want to Dictate on top. I am going to shock on this Hallowed Fountain because we might want to Gigadrowse for more. I think that's going to matter a lot more than 2 life. We could Exhaustion here, but I don't think that's very good. Oh shoot, I just realized we had 8 in hand. Shoot, maybe we did want to Exhaustion. So we want Path, we want Part. Yeah, we want these warps. We definitely want Gigadrowse. We want Cryptic. Yeah, I messed up. Wish I had counted my hand better. I think I'm gonna get rid of Exhaustion just because I don't think the opponent's going to tap out very often, and I also don't think Gigadrowse is going to be very effective because our opponent has so many more lands than we do. Even after we untap, we'll have 4, 5, 6, 7 to our opponent's 1, 5, 6, 7, 8 blue sources right now, and if they play another blue source, that's 9. Yeah, missing those land drops in the early game is pretty brutal, along with Search for Ascanta flipping. Our opponent also Cryptic Commanded a land to our hand one time. Yeah, things are just all bad. We really need our opponent to get a little bit aggressive, to do something like use the Celestial Colonnade, to do something like tap a bunch of mana for like a Teferi or something, to like use a Field of Ruin right now for no reason. All right, yeah, if nothing's going on, I think we're also just gonna chill. All right, so I'm gonna pay attention this time. We're gonna have 8 cards after we play our land. So let's figure out what to discard. Ooh. Okay. So I think this might be the turn to go for it then, in terms of Gigadrowsing the opponent. So I don't think we're going to cast Serum Visions. I don't think we're going to use Temporal. Or sorry, rather, we want to put Temporal on top. We're going to want to Gigadrowse our opponent at their end step, so that we can go Temporal Mastery and also Time Warp in the same turn. We're going to have 8 lands total. So what in the world are we discarding? It might even be Path. It looks like our opponent isn't very... Yeah, I think we're going to discard Path. Our opponent probably doesn't want to activate the Colonnade. So we're going to put back Serum Visions, Temporal Mastery. We're going to play Snow-Covered Island. And then I don't think we're going to use Path to Exile. Ooh. You know what I just realized is our opponent can make us shuffle with this Field of Ruin. Kind of forgot about that one. All right. That is fine. Kind of forgot about the forced shuffle there. We also don't really want to path this because it would give our opponent an extra land. Our opponent's sure doing a lot at this end step. I think we want to try countering this and returning Jace to hand. Man, this is not good. So the good news is if our opponent does Logic Knot, which it looks like they're doing, we get to cast this Dictate. The bad news is obviously we're now under pressure. The opponent still has way more lands than we do, which sucks. Nope, not paying for Logic Knot. Yeah, so unfortunately, we're just going to have to deal with this. We're going to be taking 2 a turn for a little bit. Our opponent keeps playing blue sources. This is really not good. I guess one thing that would be really helpful is if we can draw another Gigadrowse, of which I think we have 2 in the deck. Yeah, there's 1 in the yard. We can Gigadrowse a bunch of blue sources at our opponent's end step, and then Gigadrowse the last few on our turn, and then start going off. I think that's going to be how we win this game. All right. Trying to decide between playing the Hallowed Fountain tapped or playing the Flooded Strand or playing this untapped. This is tough. I'm just going to play the Flooded Strand, and then I think we're going to get rid of the extra Jace. He is currently the least important part of our plan. Yeah, the fact that our opponent gets to keep on Escantaing puts us at a pretty huge disadvantage. Negate. That's really bad for us. Oh, that's really bad for us too. So we are going to have to go off soon. So let's see, one of the options that we have is, first of all, let's discard that. We can Gigadrowse 6, 7, 8, 9 things, which is 6, 7, 8, 9. If the opponent doesn't play a blue source, then they'll only have 1 more blue source left. And our opponent is Fate Sailing. Puts a card on top. I think we're going to end up shuffling anyway, so joke's on you, opponent. Joke's super on you if you make us super shuffle. But anyway, if the opponent only has a few blue sources... Oh. Detention Sphere. Uh-oh. Yeah, that's not good. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. All right, we might be able to win this. So we're going to end step, Gigadrowse all the blue sources, right? 1, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Yeah, I suppose the opponent could like negate or whatever. Oh man. We're almost out of basics. All right. 8 copies. So our opponent could theoretically have a counterspell up after this by negating one of the copies. This is the worst part of this spell. How to target these 5 lands. Okay. They just move in random directions. The middle one is not targeted. That one. God, yeah, that is just the worst thing ever. My train of thought, it's lost. Right, so we're going to tap a bunch of blue sources. The opponent could theoretically like counter something to leave up negate, but we can have double time warp. I think. Oh no, if the opponent bounces a land. Oh no. Shoot. Yeah, the Celestial Colonnade now isn't being tapped. All right, I didn't think this through. Because of the Cryptic... shoot. Yeah, because of the Cryptic bouncing that land, we're only going to have 9 mana on our turn, which means we won't be able to double Time Warp, which is my original plan for beating a singular negate. I think the opponent already cast or discarded this opt. I think. Teferi, okay, that's cool. All right, so hopefully we draw either a nice little Miracle Temporal Mastery, which would be amazing, or an Exhaustion would be good. That's not it. That's not it. All right, let's see if our opponent lets us do this. Yeah. All right, this has gone real bad. Not quite dead yet, but it's not looking good at all. I kind of want to concede just to save time. We are, again, behind on clock, but I'm just going to play faster instead. Let's see. Boom, boom. All right, go. Yeah, this has turned out real unfortunate. A Commandeer at any point would have been fantastic if we could have resolved that spell. Are we literally dead? Oh, whoops. Didn't see that. Okay. Yeah, a Commandeer at any point would have been fantastic, but it's not meant to be. Again, our sideboard is just not set up for this particular matchup. Rest in Peace, not very good. Stony Silence, not very good. Timely, meh. I guess Rest in Peace does kind of counter Logic Knot, except not even, because in the late game they can just put mana into it. Thing in the Ice is not very good against both Jace and Teferi, so I don't want to bring it in. Chalice is not very good. Yeah, I think we just run it like it is. I do think this is generally an extremely good matchup for us. We just got very unlucky by mulliganing to 5 and then missing some land drops. The opponent Cryptic did our land several times, which is one of the best things you can do with Cryptic Command in this matchup, is bounce the opponent's lands. This is very much a matchup about who can have more lands and then just go off. The fact that our Gigadrowses were hitting the opponent for 1 less was a huge deal. If we could have hit 1 more of the opponent's lands, then the opponent wouldn't have had negate available. Yeah, we just lost because we were short on lands. All right, yes, we would like to play first. All right, this hand looks pretty good. So we have Serum Visions to try to look for something. We've got Commandeer, which is great. Path kind of sucks, but we don't really have anything better to bring in for it, so we will keep this. I'm just going to go ahead and lead on Island. If we want the 2 cards off Serum Visions, we'll just play Glacial Fortress next turn. And yeah, there's no real reason to wait. Or to play the Misty, I mean. Both of these look pretty decent to me. Actually, do we want this just yet? I don't think we want this Time Warp just yet, but we do want that land. All right, I'm gonna reduce the number of stops I have, try to play a little bit faster so we don't clock ourselves. I scry every time. Land is fine. Actually, now that I think about it, I didn't realize we were so short on blue cards for Commandeer. Yeah, whatever. Hmm. Let's see. Yeah, let's just chill. We can't protect our Jace with Commandeer, so I don't think there's a point in playing it now. So we could play this Dictate, but I think I'm going to wait because we have a land drop lined up. Ooh. Okay, let's see if the opponent counters this. Nice. So we are going to try to put some pressure on the opponent now. So does that mean Jace or does that mean Dictate? I think it means Jace. And then, yeah, I think we're going to play Jace. If the opponent goes for Cryptic Command, we're going to Commandeer it. If they go for a 2-mana counterspell, I think we're going to let it go. So we definitely want to get a Prairie Stream. And I think we want to just take 2 on the Hallowed Fountain. I think we want to leave as many basic lands in the deck as possible. And I don't think the 2 life is going to matter. It kind of did last game, but whatever. So again, if they go for like counter bounce, we're going to really get them with this Commandeer. Counter, whatever, Commandeer, bounce like Celestial Colonnade. It'll be pretty great. Miracling Temporal Mastery is pretty nice, just the natural miracle. What are the modes? Target counter, draw a card. That's fine. We want this to resolve. So unfortunately, we won't draw the card for Cryptic Command because it will fizzle, because we're going to target Commandeer. It's going to not have a target, and then because the draw mode doesn't target, we won't get to do anything. But we do have a Jace, so that's cool. We also have an extra turn queued up, and our opponent has no blue mana queued up. So, or no blue mana available, you know what I mean? Well, those paths are not good, but not much we can do about that. So I think I'm going to play Serum Visions first, even though we know we're drawing a terrible path to Exile. And the reason is we want to dig a little... Oh, wait, shoot. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 7. Now, if we draw a Temporal Mastery, we just want to hardcast it. All right, I've changed my mind. Yeah, I think that was the tipping point. Anyway, I was going to say we want to... Ooh, nice. I was going to say we want to play the Serum Visions first, even though we know we're drawing a terrible card, because we want to look for a Time Walk effect and just continue the chain. All right, that doesn't do it. And lands are good, but we just really want to find another Time Walk. That probably counts. The opponent might have a surgical effect or something. So we'll see what we can find first. These. Hopefully the opponent doesn't have surgical extraction. If they do, whatever, we'll just cast a Dictate and then try to tap some lands. Oh, whoops. Shoot. I forgot that emming gives you white mana instead of blue mana. Let's see. So we can 0 but that doesn't, or sorry, -1 on Snapcaster, but that doesn't get us very far. So let's see what we've got. All right, I think we're just going to hardcast this Temporal Mastery and keep the chain going. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, just short of casting Dictate. I think this is fine. Let's see. So what I'm going to do now is a little bit tricky. I'm going to put, I think I only need this upkeep stop. I'm going to cast Dictate during my upkeep. And the reason is, so long as we draw a land within our Jace draws, we'll be able to hardcast a Temporal Mastery. I'm okay with drawing this Gigadrowse, so we'll draw this, and then in response to this Dictate, we don't want to draw the path to exile that's under it. I'm okay with taking 2 here. All right, and then let's draw for Dictate. Oh, nice. That's pretty sick. Yeah, we did not need that draw step stop. Let's see what else we can find. Maybe an actual warp. Let's see. Not quite. So I think we're in a pretty good spot here. We have many lands over the opponent. We really just want to kill quickly because we have 7 minutes left on the clock to win multiple games. So what we're going to do here is probably just let the opponent play a land, do whatever. All right, Ghost Quarter. That's not bad. So I think we definitely want to draw that Snapcaster Mage. I'm going to turn off auto yields real quick. So we want to draw the Snapcaster Mage and then again use that trick of responding to this thing and not draw the Inkmoth Nexus. We're going to Serum Visions first this time because we just want to hit perfect Time Warp effect. So we'll top this. We have a bunch of Gigadrowse already. Sure. Okay, note that we cannot part the Waterveil with Awaken before tapping this Ghost Quarter, because if we do, the opponent is going to destroy our land. But anyway, also note that we have a buttload of lands. Let's see. Oh dear. The opponent actually has something. Oh, they have Negate. All right, I wasn't paying attention. Okay, yeah, that's fine. Whatever. We'll just target their blue sources and then go for lethal next turn. Let's see, so already activated Jace, I believe. Yep. Yeah, so they can have a maximum of 5 blue sources here. So we'll just go for them at end step and then animate part the Waterveil, hit in for whatever. Field of Ruin counts as a blue source. We're just going to leave plains untapped. And then we'll be able to tap the remaining blue source so that they can't have negate again. And then go off with part the Waterveil. Or our opponent's just going to do something silly like this. Yeah, that's fine. All right, so I am going to tap this because we don't want the opponent to path our land. And I'm also just going to tap to Fairy just to establish dominance. That is a-okay. Yeah, we're running out of time though. I'm definitely going to have to play quickly. This was probably an unnecessary flex. All right, yeah, just gonna go fast. Anyway, I'd like to note that Inkmoth Nexus is not necessary here because the opponent is dead in 2 attacks. And would you look at that, we have 2 attacks. All right, let's try to win this last game really quickly. Honestly, I might put this thing in just because we're so low on clock. Yeah, it's not good. When the opponent bounces it with Jace or bounces it with Teferi, it's just so bad for us, but I think we do need some way to win faster. Yeah, there's definitely an argument for having conceded that first game earlier, just because we're so likely to win games 2 and 3. But whatever, it is what it is. And I'm gonna need to play a little bit fast, so apologies if I commentate a little bit less than normal. We do have a Jace. This hand is otherwise very underwhelming, but it's got lands in it. We'll be able to get rid of this path too. Yeah, this is fine. It's not good, but it's fine. No, let's not miracle that. All right, if we ever resolve this Jace, it'll be pretty good, so that's cool. We're gonna make that Field of Ruin unusable, opponent. Unusable. All right, so now that we've got this Dictate, I am going to opt. I was going to save this for... go in aggro. I was going to save this for something or other. I'm also going to do the draw step trick where we don't want the opponent crypticking us, so we'll do it then. That looks really good to me. Yeah, so by casting Dictate at our opponent's draw step, they won't have Cryptic online because, Gavin Doodle Poodles, okay. You do you. Yeah, so this is one of the rare instances that our blue-white opponent is going for the 5 power on turn 3, just kill you really fast strategy. Hopefully we'll be able to deal with that. They took Path, okay. It's interesting that they took an uncastable card. Anyway, I think I'm okay with this getting countered, so that's why we're doing it now. Also, I forgot to set that end step stop, but whatever. I should F6 and save us some time. Okay. I think we're not going to let our opponent use Field of Ruin, so we're just going to do this. I think we're actually going to draw step another Dictate again. Oh, I should have done it in response to that trigger, but I was auto-yielding. Whatever. We do need to do something soon, so probably gonna... Oh man, if the opponent had a detention sphere, that would be so bad for us. Probably gonna Exhaustion or try to go off this turn. Let's see, we're at 8. Yeah, I think I'll Exhaustion. Ooh, we do have Path. Okay, always in the wrong order. I'll Exhaustion and see what happens. The opponent probably has counter spells for days, but whatever. And then we're really just looking for a Gigadrowse. We are under quite a bit of pressure right now, so we really do want something good to happen. That Exhaustion would be okay if we could cast it, but we can't. Let's see. I don't think this is worth it. We take 5, go to 3, and then we path that. Yeah. Yeah, this is how blue-white control wins. This is really unfortunate that we're in such a bad spot right now, but what can you do? All right, so there's our Gigadrowse. So I think we are just going to try to drowse the opponent and see what we can do. Let's see. Can't really use that very effectively. I don't think we're going to path the opponent. Let's see, so we do need to stop these two things. Let's see, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, this is kind of brutal. We can't really beat counterspells because... Yeah, well, we can't beat counterspells. All right. I'm gonna tap this twice. Let's see, so we go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So replicate 5. So we want to tap this twice. Same targets on that one. And then I think this is going to be the way that we beat counterspells is by, if the opponent has exactly one counterspell, then we start tapping their lands. And they won't be able to effectively kill us. So we have 2 going at the click, a bunch going at their blue sources, and none going at Snapcaster. So we're going to go to 1, which sucks. But if the opponent has 1 or 0 counterspells, which I'm really not sure how that would happen, then we can start going off next turn, because then it would be Time Warp, Hallowed Fountain tapped, we start Temporal Masterying. Okay, if the opponent just has double counterspell for Vendilion Click, then we actually die. All right, yeah, we actually die. Good game, opponent. It's really unfortunate that we lost that one, but a bunch of mulliganing in game 1. Opponent had the fastest possible blue-white control start in game 2. What can you do? See you for round 5. Okay, here we are in round 5. We've lost the die roll. Oh boy. This is a tough one. We do have Mikokoro that gets us into Jace, which puts Temporal on top, but we don't have very good interaction, and we really need to hit 2 lands. I think I'm going to keep this and not feel good about it. Yeah, this is tough. All right, well, this might be another blue-white control opponent. It could also be Bant Spiritos. I'm just going to play the Glacial Fortress tapped. I don't think there's any chance we're path to exiling this turn. All right, I hope this is just blue-white control. All right. Always when you can't cast it. Perfect timing. All right, so assuming this is blue-white control, we're definitely fetching Hallowed Fountain here. Just because we want to keep all the basics in our deck for the, you know, Ghost Quarters, Field of Ruins, Path to Exiles, all that good stuff. All right, definitely going to Mikokoro here. Probably going to activate it. I'm going to think about casting Jace next turn, but I'm not sure if I actually want to. Yeah, opponent has Cryptic online and we have a land anyway. We have a pretty good discard in Path to Exile, which is not very good. Yeah, I think I'm just going to not cast Jace. All right. Yeah, we can start to pressure the opponent a little bit more by casting a Dictate instead. I'm not going to cast the Dictate now, even though our opponent doesn't have Cryptic up right now, because the goal is to make the opponent tap out on their turn to, you know, potentially counter the Dictate and whatever, bounce a land or draw a card or something, and then we'll be able to slam Jace. Yep, that is fine. I don't think I want to go for the Time Warp here. I think the opponent is pretty likely to have a counterspell. Kind of just want to do the same thing again. Just play a Dictate at the opponent's end step and see what happens. Sucks that we can never draw this Temporal Mastery in the correct order. Yeah, we can Gigadrowse, but the opponent would still have like 2 lands up. Yeah, let's just pass here. I think we might be able to leverage this Gigadrowse and this Dictate to some good effect. All right, this is good. This is very good. So now we get to Gigadrowse the remaining lands, cast a Dictate, and then go off from there. So I'm going to Gigadrowse these at beginning of combat to ensure that the Dictate will resolve at end step. This one's turning that. All right, figured it out. And I am willing to take some damage here, so let's get that Hallowed Fountain onto the battlefield. All right, we don't need another Jace. I'm gonna start hard casting some Temporal Masteries, I think. The fact that we have Jace plus Exhaustion is kind of sweet, but I think we're just drawing so many cards a turn. We honestly just want to cast a Temporal Mastery. Like, yeah, it's cool when you get to, you know, spend less mana on Temporal Mastery and you have a Jace on the battlefield, but who cares? We're just gonna keep going. All right, so we're going to win this game using that Part the Waterveil. We also just don't want to give our opponent another turn because that gives them an opportunity to play Ghost Quarter, which would be not good. So we do have a Time Warp in the yard. I don't think there's any way the opponent has like Surgical Extraction or something main deck, right? And I think because we're going to win with this Part the Waterveil, it's totally okay to get another Howling Mine online. Yes, I would like to reveal Temporal Mastery. Oh, isn't that excellent? All right, note that the opponent is super dead whether or not we had this Inkmoth Nexus, which is really only making our Gigadrowse do less in the early game, but whatever. Guess that part didn't really matter. I believe the technical term for our opponent's current condition is super dead. We're just going to ignore Jace entirely and go straight for the opponent. We don't need any more Dictates, I don't think. Okay, so now the plan is to ignore Inkmoth. Let's see, wait, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Yeah, perfect. straight for our opponent. Let's see, we already have this Time Warp in our hand, so I don't even need to waste time fooling around with Serum Visions or whatever. And the opponent has one case of being deaditis. Cool, so again in the sideboard, we really don't have much. I'm still gonna trade one thing in the ice for one path to exile. I do think Thing is not good, again, because Jace has, you know, the ability to just minus and bounce it. Teferi has the ability to minus and tuck it. But Thing is another blue card for Commandeer, and it incentivizes our opponent to tap out early to get their Planeswalker down and then deal with the Thing, because otherwise we can probably just flip the Thing and win. Maybe this is reason enough to go to 2 Thing, 1 path. Yeah. Still think Thing is bad, but it might encourage our opponent to play poorly too. So let's see how it goes. Okay, here we are in game 2. Our opponent is going first. This hand looks great. We've got land, Serum Visions, Dictate. Really just looking for more dictates, I guess. All right, so I am going to hurt myself here. The reason being we don't want to mess up the scries off of our Serum Visions. It's certainly possible we get into a situation like last time where the opponent just goes turn 2 Snapcaster, turn 3, whatever. This might even be too many lands. I think at this point we're looking for more dictates. And we have a bunch of cantrips if we end up needing more lands. But anyway, yeah. The opponent could certainly go Snapcaster Mage and then Vendilion Click and start attacking. Apparently that's not happening. So I like our chances a lot more because of that. But yeah, even if they do, the not shuffling away our scry I think is pretty important. I suppose I should have opted first. I didn't actually think about the order of operations here. Yeah. I think we might need this land, and I think we'll be able to cast the Serum Visions at some point. Yeah, I should have opted first, because now when we opt, it's just going to be draw a card instead of scry 1 draw a card, since we wanted both of those cards. But yeah, oh well. This is a learning opportunity for me. I think next turn we're going to do that draw step. Oh, okay. I'll cast opt and see if the opponent decides to Field of Ruin us in response. All right. How about now? Okay. Anyway, like I said, I'm going to cast Dictate during our opponent's draw step. It is a little bit soft to... Oh, actually, if the opponent goes for a Field of Ruin here, I'm actually just going to cast it then. I don't really mind the opponent drawing an extra card, and I would much rather just have this guaranteed resolve. Like, yes, we can get hit by Detention Sphere now, but that's the price you pay. It's actually kind of bad for us. Card went to the bottom. So we do have Exhaustion, which is nice that our opponent so kindly tapped out for us. And we also get to Serum Visions this turn. Never the right order, but yeah, the opponent had a Jace. So the opponent does get to Jace plus us, which kind of sucks. But we'll see. We'll see. We can hide a card by putting it second from the top, and then we'll be able to draw it even through, let's see here. we have 2 lands, so it's Prairie stream time. Lost my train of thought. Right, if there's a card we really want, we can put it second from the top. We don't want either of these though. We have plenty of land. By that I mean 1, and however many we draw into in the next many draw steps. But yeah, if there was, for example, a Time Warp, I would put that second from the top, put whatever the other card is on top, and then even if Jace pluses to the bottom, we would get the Time Warp, and if Jace pluses to the top, we would draw 2 cards, still get the Time Warp. Opponent doing a big think, puts it on top. Let's see what we get. Dictate, interesting. Very interesting. I think we just want to Exhaustion again. We're not really going to get to use these very often. And sure. Actually, that might have been a mistake. The better move might have been to Gigadrowse the opponent, and then the following turn we get both Dictate and Exhaustion. I think that would have been better. I think that was a misplay by me. Let's see how much it ends up mattering. So at some point what we're going to do about this Jace is we're going to tap our opponent's lands and then bounce it, or we're just going to kill the opponent before Jace can ultimate, which is in, let's see, 12, it's at 9, so plus to 11, plus to 13, minus. So sometime in the next 2 turns, we're going to Gigadrowse the opponent so that they can't counterspell our Cryptic, and then we're going to Cryptic Jace. Let's see, they put the card on top. Yeah, let's go ahead and shuffle it. Let's see. See what a fresh draw can bring us. So we do have Exhaustion into Dictate, but again, at some point we're going to need to hit this Jace. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah, I think we might just Gigadrowse the opponent at their end step, and then try to do stuff from there. So we'll have various things available, such as part the Waterveil. If we draw a land, we'll have Hardcast Temporal. We'll have Exhaustion plus Dictate. Yeah, and the opponent is not quite at ultimating Jace yet, so I think we're okay. Puts it on top. All right, so we get to tap their non-fetch lands. It would be really great if the opponent activates Celestial Colonnade here. Bummer. All right, we're going to replicate 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times. So again, the opponent could do some crazy counterspelling to leave up an additional counterspell on our turn. I don't think... All right, hold on. Those 2 islands, so I need to tap the left island. All right, yeah, I don't think that blue-white control plays any meaningful 1-mana counterspells, so I'm not going to play around any like whatever counter target sorcery or any spell pierce or any whatever the force spike is. This looks like our opponent is going to Cryptic something and then possibly bounce the Dictate, possibly bounce a land. We'll see. If that's the case, I think we might need to Exhaustion and then try a Gigadrowse again. Yeah, shoot, that's not good. Yeah, we might need to Exhaustion the opponent, try a Gigadrowse again. Let's see. Okay, so they left this island untapped. Yeah, that's a sign that they very likely have another counterspell. So options. I think the best thing to do would be to Miracle a Temporal Mastery. It's not quite it. So we can cast an Exhaustion. The opponent will probably go for a counterspell. And then what? The opponent pluses Jace. Yeah, that puts us in a bad spot where we get destroyed by Jace. So that sucks. I think instead what I'm going to do is unfortunately fire off this Gigadrowse to target these two, move to the next main phase, and then bounce Jace and draw a card. So this is kind of a terrible usage of Cryptic Command, but it is what it is. We need to not die to Jace, and I think this is how we do it. And again, the reason that I'm tapping both this and the Flooded Strand is so that in the future, we will be able to tap whatever land the opponent fetches off this Flooded Strand. And the reason we're not just tapping these two and then playing Exhaustion is because we no longer have access to Gigadrowse. So if the opponent has a negate, like I highly suspect they do, if we Exhaustion them now, they're going to have this Hallowed Fountain untapped, and then they'll get to play a land on their turn, and then they'll get to... That's interesting that they didn't float mana. Shoot, they could have Dispel, though. Well, I can't really beat Dispel. Alright. Yeah, I don't think Dispel is generally good against us, but in this particular case, it would really get us good. We really got good. Okay, well, we need to do something, and that something needs to happen now. I'm gonna go ahead and put this on top, even though it doesn't do anything. Yeah, so we could have Exhaustioned there, but we still get got by any 2-mana counterspell, assuming our opponent has a land in that massive 7-card hand, which I believe they do. Yeah, as expected, that goes to the bottom. I think we're going to lose this game to Jace. Let's see what can happen. We can Miracle Temporal Mastery. The opponent somehow doesn't have counterspells, and then we cast a Dictate and we go off from there. That would be cool. However, I think the opponent has a hand chock full of counters. Yeah, go for it, dude. Yeah, pretty sure this is a Cryptic from our opponent. Yeah, we can't really beat it, so we'll do what we can, which is cast a spell, it gets countered, and then we lose to Jace Ultimate. Don't really mind showing our opponent our hand. They already have all this information, so... Or rather, they don't have this information, but they already know that we play all of these cards, so they're not really learning anything new, rather. You know, there's no, like, Crackling Drake Super Secret Spice or anything in here. Yeah, so this Gigadrowse doesn't do it, this Exhaustion doesn't do it. The only thing we can do is cast Temporal Mastery and pray. This suppose we could have played around exactly Cryptic Command by Gigadrowsing a land and then moving to next main phase, but oh. That's insane. We need some kind of miracle, so I think it's going to involve flashing in a Dictate and then drawing a not that either. All right, we lose now. Drawing a Time Warp. All right, let's try it again. I don't think there's anything worth changing in the sideboard here. All right, game 3, we are going first. This hand looks great if it had land. All right, we'll keep this one. All right, at least the opponent is also on 6 for now. Opponent's on 5. We can help them unmulligan. We are going to need this eventually, but I don't think eventually is now. All right, let's see what we've got. Both of these look good, except we're going to run out of lands pretty quick. I think that's fine. Yeah, opponent mulled to 5. I think this is fine. So our plan is we're going to play Thing in the Ice, and then the following turn use Polluted Delta, fetch a Prairie Stream, and maybe not fetch a Prairie Stream. We'll find out, because we might be fixing our opponent's mana. We might just want to fetch all basics so that the opponent has no opportunity to use the Field of Ruin. But anyway, we're going to play the Dictate of Kruphix, help our opponent unmulligan a little bit, hopefully help us unmulligan a little bit. So we have the opportunity to cast a Dictate here, but I think it's more important that the opponent doesn't get this extra card because they've mulliganed. There's certainly a chance the opponent is short on lands. There's a chance the opponent is, whatever, short on something. And yeah, I think I am going to just get a basic island, and then if they want to counterspell this Dictate, that is fine by me. We'll get a snow-covered island. Why not? So hopefully we can draw land and we don't get punished. Mana leak. Interesting. I didn't know deck still played Mana Leak. Okay. All right, well, it might have been a little bit too greedy to keep those spells on top, in particular if our opponent just keeps playing lands. Like if our opponent casts a Jace here, this is pretty bad for us. We could Gigadrowse to stop that from happening, but we don't really gain anything from that. All we really want is well, I guess there's a lot we want, but 2 more lands wouldn't hurt. Yeah, we could Gigadrowse here, but I'm not gonna. Doesn't really accomplish all that much. I think the biggest thing it does is take a counter off Thing in the Ice, but whatever. Opponent doing a big think. Opponent with the really, really big think. So it is possible that it would have been better to just resolve the Dictate of Kruphix. But I definitely thought that our opponent would be in a spot where we're pressuring them with this thing in the ice rather than them pressuring us with that Vendilion Click. I also thought that they were just as likely as us to not hit lands. Interesting. So I could use these Gigadrowses now, and I think I'm going to, for the sake of our opponent not continuing to develop their board. Both Jace and Teferi are considerations, and also so that we can get counters off these things. We don't quite have good attacks just yet. Or sorry, good draws just yet. Because Time Warp, for example, is not very good. It's not a land. It's not castable. Exhaustion would be decent. See, Temporal Mastery would be decent too. Part the Waterveil is pretty bad. I guess Jace is good. Jace, he either pluses and gets out of Vendilion Click range, or he just bounces the Vendilion Click. Yeah, all right, I take that back. We have some pretty good draws. Let's try to draw some of them. And land at least works our way towards Temporal Mastery, which is, it's more than nothing. All right, well, we can take 2 and then also tap the Vendilion Click, I guess. All right, and then after this, we just really need to draw something. Would be cool if we could, you know, top deck a Temporal Mastery into a Time Warp or something. All right, we really need the top of our deck to cooperate. I think the best possible draw is, well, not that. Best possible draw is Serum Visions into Exhaustion, but obviously that didn't happen. So now worst possible thing is the opponent plays a Planeswalker, gets rid of our thing, and then maybe like paths our other thing or something. All right, well, this at least gets a counter off the things, even though I'm pretty sure this is going to get countered, but nothing else we can really do. Guess Cryptic Command bouncing a thing would be pretty bad for us. Yeah, I think the worst possible thing for us here is Cryptic Command, counter Temporal, bounce a thing, and then after that, a follow-up for the remaining thing. We would be pretty dead to that. Oh, hey, look, it's the worst thing I said. Yeah, thing is really not good in this matchup. In this particular case, Path would have been nice against this Vendilion Click. But, oh well. Definitely still have a chance. Good draws are still anything that flips thing. That is not a spell that flips thing. I'm a little bit surprised that our opponent didn't Field of Ruin there, but whatever. Alright. I wonder if this will resolve. I wonder what the opponent's thinking about here. I guess this is their opportunity to cast Cryptic Command to bounce our thing on one counter. Yeah, I think that is a pretty bad play, and we really need a spell. That's pretty unfortunate. We're not necessarily dead, though. All right, now we're dead if the opponent is smart enough to activate Colonnade, which I assume they are, but we'll let them actually do it. Well, that is an unfortunate amount of cards that don't flip thing in a deck that is chock full of cards that do. Our opponent didn't see it. We've got one more shot. And if nothing else, we get to go out on our own terms with this Flooded Strand. That is a really, really, really unfortunate number of cards that don't flip thing in the ice. Yeah, there's no point. We're dead. All right, that's unfortunate. See you for the wrap up. All right, so what did we learn about blue-white turns? Unfortunately, in that league, we kind of got the bad side of variance. We were mulliganing a lot. We missed a lot of Temporal Mastery triggers, although the one time we did get it, it was pretty great. I do think a very serious takeaway here is that Inkmoth Nexus is just not good in this deck. The opportunities that we had to part the Waterveil with Awaken It just didn't matter because we could kill the opponent very easily anyway. Basically, the only time Inkmoth really makes a difference is when you're attacking a Planeswalker that has one loyalty left, but that just didn't come up in this league, and I feel like it doesn't come up very often. The other takeaway is you really want to make sure that your white sideboard cards are going to be good for your meta, because we ended up boarding in very few of these, and it made our sideboard feel pretty useless. It would have been a lot better if we had something like a Negate or a Commandeer or anything else really for those spell-based matchups like Ad Nauseam, like that weird red storm deck, like the blue-white control deck. So you really want to make sure that if you're playing blue-white turns, you have a sideboard that's going to work well for your meta. And unfortunately, in this particular case, it didn't really work out for me, but there's definitely a lot of metas where these kind of sideboard cards can really do a lot of damage. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed the video. I'll see you for the next one.